Familia Francisco and
Amia.
Cervantes, a Cervantes Dog Training and Rehabilitation. We are going to talk about trust and respect. We've been arguing about what sort of topic we should talk about, and respect, trust and respect, or respect is big. It's and I don't know how we don't know how to even explain what respect is, or how to explain it in a way that people can understand.
Right, and I was saying that I hear you over and over and over, trust, respect, during your sessions, and I often don't see any sort of reaction from your clients. It's almost like they have no idea what you mean by that, so
they don't pay attention
to it.
Right. And so where I'm going with this, I guess my question is, and then you can participate on this one, is we want to know your opinion about what it is about trust and respect. And I think it's the same as when we respect our companions. Like, let's talk about dogs, right? So what in my experience working with dogs are one of the things that the dog looks is for structure, but they also looking for someone that is going to give that guidance, and that involves trust and respect. And oftentimes I said I want 100% of trust, 100% of respect. I don't want 80%, I don't want 50%. I want really the dog to connect with me at a different level. So where trust and respect comes to the human being is that I think that's where we're hearing about people not like dogs trying to overstep boundaries. Yeah. Kind of like when they become protective. I think that's a regular thing. It happens over and over. So I think that goes along with what respect is. See, but it's very animalistic.
I think that this, let's give a clear example.
Is that another example that I can bring is that when I work with people and then they have young dogs and then they sort of growl or bark, or they kind of like move forward to kind of get you. And I mean, would they bite at that point? I don't know, but they move really with intentions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times these dogs, they don't have a history of biting people, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't have to have that history of like biting all the time. So, and then it's really clear a lot of times when a dog is trying to, regardless of age, trying to overstep those boundaries, kind of like that's when the disrespect comes, where the dog is trying to do your job, kind of thing. And so I've seen youngsters that kind of like, and it's really intense. I think that in order for people to understand, they have to live it or they have to see it. But it is different. The intention is the energy that the dog brings in it, the eye contact that they're giving to you. It's totally different. They're watching you, and they're watching you like a hawk. Mm. They're like, and they have big eyes, and they're keeping track of everything you do. So that in that instance, it's kind of like when if you say, like a lot of people say, well, it'll go away at some point, and it does not go away most of the time when dog is acting that way. And you do have to do certain things, different structure for those dogs, so everything would be okay. But it's you that you need to kind of like say to the dog, this is how it goes. You're not allowed to do this, but this is what you can do.
So I think too what we're talking about is we're talking about degree of respect and form of respect in human relationships, in dog relationships, and then human dog relationships.
Right.
Because
it is
what
all
you were
interconnected.
trying to do was you were trying to give them, your clients, a human example that they could relate to as an equivalent to how serious they should
Exactly.
take that act
Yes.
of disrespect
Yes.
that the dog did, because they didn't realize that in the dog world that act of disrespect has a lot more to it, like that it's at a much greater degree than they realize. That overstepping of that boundary is much more serious than we take it.
And then there are some people that they do understand that concept, or they see it and they're like, I get it. And for instance, I have this beautiful dog and big dog, Jong, and she didn't have a history of being or biting, right? So, but then I go to her owner's house, and then it's like really territorial. So then we worked, and then they saw the aggression showed, and then that dog is doing its job. It's a guarding dog, and so but it's John, and hopefully they can understand how to take care of that, right? That's why they call. And then my job there was to show them what respect looks from a dog to a human. So when a dog is trying to overstep those boundaries in that particular space, then you would have issues, some issues like that. So, and then I gave that example to this guy, right? The one of the owners, and then so I said to the guy, well, what do you think about what she's doing is as equivalent as some inviting a friend over and trying to touch your wife is inappropriate. And then he just like boom.
Yeah, he knows exactly what that would feel like.
Beat the crap out of him probably.
Right.
And it's like, yes.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to beat the crap out of your dog, but you should be able to feel that is the response.
Exactly.
I mean, that is the degree of understanding that you have of that degree of disrespect. Because the truth is, you have to keep a clear mind in how you respond. Like
that's totally different.
You never want to correct out of frustration or anger.
No, that's
ever
totally
with a
different.
dog, and like you'll have to like reset if you really feel that way. Like,
no, that's
like
not,
put the dog away and come back to it when you're feeling clear. That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're talking about.
We're not saying that you need to be like angry or feel those feelings that you would feel in that other situation. What we're trying to emphasize here is just, it's like a rating of disrespect. It's like, okay, you're looking at your dog growling as like a 2. But we're telling you that in the dog world, that dog just got away with a lot, and you just let it step right over that boundary without any sort of check at all. And that dog's keeping track.
Yeah.
Because in the dog world, what that dog just did was more like a 7.5. Right? So we're looking at it like a 2, and they're looking at it like a 7.5.
Right. So what we want to talk about this with like respect is that when dogs try to overstep, when dogs are trying to do your job, in a way, sometimes they are disrespectful to your boundaries, but not because they want to. A lot of the times, it's because they feel that they have to,
or they're like exploring,
It totally is.
Doesn't always have to have like malicious intent.
So it really depends on each situation, each dog. So, and that's why, and we're not talking about how to correct, how to or how to take care of that business, right? That's totally different. And then to talk about it requires a lot, because it gets tricky, and involves a lot. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like, do we really understand what respect is?
Right.
Do we really understand what respect is between human to human? Because it's exactly for dogs. I show respect even if I'm just like working with a dog, but a lot of the times I said it, there's a mutual respect. So we're talking about, do we really understand the concept of like having a relationship with our dogs where dogs are not overstepping those boundaries and then they're dogs? Because once the dog does not understand where those boundaries are, then that's when they're trying to do your job, right? And then I think that's where the part that people do not get.
When they start to see you as less than a leader and start to see you as either an equivalent or under.
Right. And so then you would have different behaviors.
And then
And levels of aggression as well. So
we're saying boundaries and respect are intertwined.
Right.
And then the trust part of it, because that's the thing about it that people too like have a hard time understanding, because you get a dog that's terrified of everything, and yet you're saying you have to still apply boundaries. In fact, it's just as important as any other dog. You have to claim leadership. You have to, all of those things still apply to a fearful dog, and it's because the trust, respect, they're intertwined, and that's together. Really complicated. So like, let's maybe get into that.
Right. So here's the thing. Trust comes with respect. Does that make sense? It's like, if you show a dog, for instance, if in my experience, if I show the dog that I show them respect, so and then they have to respect me.
Mutual respect.
That with that respect, I'm gonna start building trust.
Right.
And then you have seen it where some dogs are dangerous.
Yeah.
As soon as I establish the difference, what it is, or not the difference, but when I establish, like, I'll respect you, but don't do something stupid. I respect you in the same way, but let's just keep that mutual respect.
Yeah.
And then you have seen a switch.
Right.
It's like they know that there is a boundary right there, and I'm not
like
asking
your best friend.
Right, and I'm not asking them to do something for a job for me. I'm not asking them to protect me. I'm not asking them to
take your feelings and make you feel better.
I'm not asking them to do anything. What I do ask for a dog when it gets to that point is like, gee, just relax, right? Just for once be a dog.
So
and
like
then build the trust.
You're saying a dog is being a dog when they don't take up the job,
then they don't do the job
guarding,
exactly. If you have a guardian dog, exactly,
or reacting
right.
aggressively,
right.
So would you say like leash reactivity falls under that category?
Sometimes.
Like the reason why a dog would like
yes.
be at the end of the leash?
I think so. It's all it involves different sort of.
It's that they think that they have some other job because of some sort
right.
of signals that we're
right.
giving.
Right.
And
I
you're
think
saying
it's all intertwined,
being a dog
yes.
is just being relaxed, being
goofy if they want to,
and enjoying.
It's not just enjoy, because then once the dog knows that that's what you really want, they do it. I mean, you've seen it do it. You've seen aggressive dogs here that we work with that they start somewhere and then all of a sudden they start playing.
Yeah.
And then it's like you lift
the weight, the burden.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. That's
with
what I'm talking about,
trust,
like being
respect.
Right. That's
boundaries.
The stuff that I'm talking about being a dog. It's like you don't have any responsibilities here. All you need to do is just be a dog.
See, but they do have responsibilities. Their responsibility is to have mutual trust and respect.
Right. But
so I think what people have a hard time is figuring out what that looks like. But I think what's important to say here is that if you don't understand what we could possibly be talking about when we're discussing respect, mutual respect with dogs, then it means you've got to get out there and you've got to get hands-on and start like going to seminars where you can watch dog behavior firsthand and see that exchange between dog and human and see how respect is transferred back and forth.
Right. Because a lot of the times when you work with dogs, you know, when you're doing, for instance, today I did a session, and then with this humongous dog, and it's a protective dog, it's a guarding dog, and so then it's a young dog, and he knows his size and strength, so he was throwing big tantrums, and he was going full force. He was throwing his body like into his legs and tossing his head up and back.
But it gets to a point when you start somehow, you switch energies to accommodate, and then you're kind of like trying to figure out what the best thing to approach, right? Once you get a dog like that, does not take treats.
Right.
And kind of like shuts down, right? So you're trying to work that out, and you as a handler has the responsibility to switch that energy around and to work with what's going to be best, right?
Right.
So for instance, this guy, he got to a certain level after an hour working with this big guy, and we're wrestling, that you can feel the energy. You can feel a level of like, I am done. If I thought it was funny, it's not longer funny.
Who, the dog or you?
The dog. And then it comes the like, I'm so fed up of this, I'm tired. And that's when the dog is kind of like, whatever tantrums or whatever behavior they're doing it more like heavy. They're doing it like intense. So then you're gonna have to have some sort of,
like, it gets worse right before it gets way worse.
Yes.
Right before it gets better.
And that line, you do have to kind of like show some respect towards the dog. Because if you just do and do not show some respect, the dog is gonna react. The dog is gonna say, I can beat the crap out of you. I'm bigger than you, like sharp teeth. And that's not the point. The point is that we have to control ourselves. We have to kind of like be there as a handler, and we have to show the dog that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Meaning that once the dog is at that level of like, I can freaking rip your face off at times, you have to show somehow that that's not what you want, right? That is respect. That is saying, I'm still here, I still want to help you, and I'm still going to push, but I'm going to work with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the way that I can explain to you, you did that tattoo.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. You got to talk, you got to like explain what your tattoo was about, you got to like, you got the feeling, and you were saying that it got, you were like, it's not as bad as I thought.
Right, for like the first 4 hours.
Exactly. And then it got to a point that it got quiet.
Right.
Right? And then it wasn't
we weren't talking
funny
anymore.
I mean, things changed.
Right, that was the coloring in part.
Exactly.
Was
that's the same as with the dog. Once you reach that, that's the real tricky part, where you need to have to be careful.
Right.
Not
and
to
the
push.
tattoo artist knew that like I was not going to be in a talkative
and
mood.
then he even said to you, you don't have to.
Right, and he used an example. He was saying about how he knows about that because when his wife gave birth, he took the birthing classes, and they had warned him about a certain point where like she was going to just kind of check out, and that they weren't going to have that relationship for a little bit, that she needed to do things for herself and concentrate for herself, and that she was going to. And so he said he knew at that point that they were at that phase because it was very clear, like there was a clear line. He's like, we're kind of like at that point right now, where it's like we're in that last stretch, you're clearly uncomfortable.
But what I'm going with the dog is the same thing as what you experienced with doing that, because once you got the point of what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Once you got to that line,
I felt okay because I was like, oh, he gets it, and
You don't have
I don't
to
have
talk,
to
you don't
try
have
to
to do-
talk. I don't
you
have to try
do
to make this
anything.
lighthearted. I can
Right.
just be
yourself.
and he's gonna be okay with
Exactly.
that. Yeah, that's true.
Good. Well, now, because you guys are really intense, right?
Yeah.
Now, once you finished, then you were like, I mean, he still had to finish the job,
Right.
and even with you being in pain or whatever it is, on that
Yeah.
state of mind, his job was as whatever the job he was doing, he had to be done with that job,
Yeah.
and he had to do it in a way that creates a mutual respect,
Yeah.
which means he's gonna pay attention to you on how you feel,
Yeah.
right? And then he's gonna do his job.
Mhm.
And he cannot push too much, because at some point, right? That's the same as the dog. Once you reach that line, that's when you have to focus, and then the dog is not going to take a treat. The dog is
Yeah.
not going to take words as easily or as like I'm playing or
Yeah.
anything like that. It becomes serious. It becomes
Right.
like that line of like, if you push me just a little bit like this more,
Right.
I can bite you.
Well, and I think about actually with this example that you're giving, I think a lot about your haters. Specifically the other trainers that I've seen that become irate. And, you know, they say, because they watch you reach that point, and then they say things like, what do they say? You broke her, or like,
Mm-hmm. It's like
yeah. They
right.
see that moment, and they see you as a villain for allowing the dog to get that far, and then continuing. And it's interesting because I think in certain life situations, like, that's unavoidable. And I think people want to avoid those situations with dogs, because if you push a dog to that level, it's considered abuse. But there are some issues with dogs that cannot be solved any other way but
Right.
to get them to that point where they realize they have to keep going, and then they keep going and they realize, oh, I'm okay. And
right.
then,
Yes. Because
and that's the thing. That's why those trainers, because like, you've been called in to places to work with dogs where there are already trainers hired there that work daily.
most of the time,
But
most of the
those
clients,
trainers aren't able to work with these dogs. So
Right.
then they call you in as like a last resort, right?
Mhm.
And you work with these dogs. And I mean, these dogs are in like really extreme situations, like locked in a back room without any windows, without any contact with any dogs. There are only like one or two people that are able to go in there at any time, but you know, the interactions are kind of minimal, especially for a dog that's locked up in a windowless room. And you get this dog, you just met this dog, you get this dog out into the yard. This dog is, you know, looking for affection. But to get the dog to that point where, one, it's going to leave that windowless room with you, and two, it's going to relax with you and ask for affection, there's a lot that goes on between the first spot and the last spot. And those trainers can't get over it. They can't get over that point where you had to push. They can't get over that. It drives them crazy with emotion.
And I know what you're...
Yeah, and it's like that's the reason why that dog has been locked up for a year and a half.
Right.
Because you're not willing to be brave enough or sensitive enough
to communicate with the dog.
To ride along with that dog where it needs to go, even when it can be ugly.
Right.
And that's the thing. That guy, that trainer there was so rude. So rude. And he was yelling at you in the yard in front of that dog. And he was just like, it didn't matter how great that dog was doing, how great that dog looked, what sort of activities we could look forward to, new people this dog could meet, new dogs that this dog could meet, because our dog Macho was in the yard with that dog, and they had such issues with this dog and other dogs that it hadn't been around a dog in so long. And like, instead of looking at the possibilities, he was so upset,
so negative,
and he kept saying, and like, this is like a positive reinforcement trainer, and like, he was so negative, and we were like just in shock that like someone would rather lock up a dog in a windowless room than do the difficult work that it takes to help guide that dog in the direction that it can go to be healthier. And I don't know.
But just to give you a little bit more information about that, this dog did not have as intense issues when we were called. They started with some lightly issues, and it escalated to that point. And what we're saying
before we got there.
And what we're saying is there are these trainers that say that they love and traits can cure everything.
Right.
That's when the real behavior kicks in. And then they're like, well, it's not working.
Rewarding good behavior and ignoring bad behavior. So that's where it gets to that point.
Exactly.
For certain dogs. Yeah.
To the point that this dog was the way it was. And what I'm saying is that this dog escalated to that point in front of him.
Right.
And
which
a dog
shows
trainer,
there was no trust. There was no respect between those two. That's for sure.
For a dog to do that in front of a trainer.
And that dog was not looking And that dog was not looking for any guidance from him. Couldn't care less where that trainer was.
So when I went in there to the room by myself, obviously the dog, the first thing is like, stranger, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
And all I have is just a leash.
That's obviously
and a tennis
no
racket.
Respect and no trust is where you're starting from.
Well, what would I do with the tennis racket?
Right.
I just block with the tennis racket.
Right.
The leash is just to put the leash on.
Right.
And
all
that was it.
You were
That's
asking,
all I did.
All you were asking that dog to do was leave that room with you.
Right.
And that dog ended up defecating on the floor and gator rolling, and all you were asking that dog to do was leave that room with you. But that's the amount of lack of trust and lack of respect that built up in that dog in the time that it was back there. It led it to that point where like it took you that much more work to gain that respect and that trust, because it was lacking before you got there.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was gonna say. We didn't create that.
Exactly.
I did not create that. I
but
went there.
But they were so happy to blame it all on you.
Sin.
They were so
I went there because
this
dog was like this, and it had nothing to do with me. So, in a way, it's kind of like I didn't do anything. I just went there because you want help. I show you what I can do. I show you where we can work on, and then we can progress from it, or we can do something. And it was right there. But this trainer, and that's what amazed me, that this dog was not like that at all. It had a great not great, but it had good relationship with dogs and humans. And it turned into
it just got worse and worse and worse there.
This scenario where it's kind of like, come on, you're a trainer, take care of it.
How did you get it to this point? If you had an understanding of trust and respect, and you were sensitive enough in the relationships that you have with dogs, how did you let it get to this point? Where that's your solution, lock it up in a back room without any windows.
That's a solution, without any windows, without any interaction. So when you have someone like me that work with the dog and understand the dog and say, well, let's have mutual respect, right? It may not look like the best thing, but I didn't create anything. I'm just there to do my job. And then once you get to that process where the dog is like, shit, there is something happening here, and I don't feel that way anymore.
Right, which only took like an hour. It was probably less than an hour that we spent there. It was probably like 30, 45 minutes or something. By the time you were out there and she was looking to you for affection.
I was touching this dog. She was like, please touch me. But that's, again, that's when you show the dog that respect. When you say, I'm here to help you. Forget about what your issues are. That's not what I'm here for. I don't look for that. I'm not looking to judge you. I'm looking to help you. So
Right.
when we established that, the dog was like, yeah. So
Right.
what I would say to when you earn that respect, that is the trust that you built.
Right.
In that amount of time
In
that it
asking
happened.
and requesting and expecting respect, you gain
Right.
trust along
Yes.
the way. When
And
you
then-
never expect and respect, or you only expect respect sometimes in certain ways, but not other times, then the trust is
It's not there.
questionable.
Right.
And being
Right.
questionable means it's not there.
Well,
If
that's
it's
what I'm saying about
not 100%.
when I said 100%.
It's
Exactly.
not there.
And
Okay.
and then you were there, and then I was touching this dog, and
Yeah.
the dog. I was really close to this dog.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just,
But
you know.
But
it
I
was-
don't know if you notice, like, if you're regular Dog Talk watchers, like, we bring examples up all the time. And we bring examples up, especially for complex issues, because that's the only way to make connections. That people are able to put the dots together and then finally be able to absorb and have full understanding of these really complicated subjects. And so I think, like, we could not emphasize more the fact that people need to experience dog behavior. And having one dog, even if you've had that one dog for years, doesn't give you enough.
Right.
It doesn't give you enough information. Like, you'd have to work with, all different dogs or observe all different dogs to be able to have an understanding of dog behavior. And I think people think because they've had a dog for years, then, okay, I'm ready to adopt another dog. I'm ready. Like, I know everything. I'm good. I'm experienced. But it's like, you're not experienced until you've seen a wide
until
range of
you've
issues.
seen it,
You've
until
seen
it,
how
feel it,
they're,
and
you've seen how they're successfully managed. You've seen those interactions firsthand and have an understanding of them through that experience, I think. And that's why we bring up these examples, because we hope that you can, but really what would be ideal is if you come to our seminars and see it firsthand. That really does make a difference.
And
so stay tuned, because we'll announce our next seminar. We'll announce, we're working on it. It's in the works. So we do have to wrap it up.
Yes. So one more thing to that example that we were giving about this dog locked up in a room. It's that with the respect right there. This guy was so disrespectful towards us.
The trainer. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
and he was an a-hole.
Yeah,
and the whole time.
You're not even trying to like.
Well, that's what I mean about like
represent
you don't
this
understand
business in a positive
what
way
respect
at all.
is about
right?
humans.
He did not get it.
So
at all.
How are you supposed to help people? Right, but that's the respect that I'm talking about.
Right.
And then the other one is that those people that worked there, they were so confused. They were like, "What in the freaking world is going on?"
Right, and they didn't know.
One that we know ended up quitting her job because of it.
Right.
Because she couldn't
stand it.
Seeing this dog being in that room because of that stupid guy.
Because that one guy said that I don't have a solution, and I don't like what I just saw with this guy. And
his solution is keep her in that room.
Just keep her in that room
for the rest of her life.
Right, because we can't like euthanize her, because that would be sad.
Yeah. so let's just keep her in the room.
It's really sad.
The level of anxiety and aggression
will build.
escalate.
Her frustration will build.
Yeah. To the point that someone
her
will
lack
get
of
hurt,
socialization,
and then that's when it gets put down.
Yeah.
So that's the solution.
That's the solution.
Sad.
All right.
But yes.
Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, and please, this is for you to kind of like just let us know what you think about what respect is. Like, I don't think there is something as it's not simple.
Right.
But there's something that maybe you can connect and say, hey, I know my experience and or something like that, where trust and respect is all about for you. And then let's make those connections. But yes, if you have any, if you have something to say, please let us know.
Okay. Thank
you.
Until next time.